Welcome back to the Project Nomad. I'm Robert and we're getting right back into it with the rear bumper for the 3rd gen 4runner.
Jumping right into it, we're getting rough measurements on the back of the bumper to get an idea of how far apart we want these hinges to be. Figuring this out also lets us know how much tube we're eventually going to be needing for these swing outs that we're going to make.
Alright, I have basically cut up everything I'm going to need for the swing outs. I have this large 2x3. It is 1/4 inch. I'm going to be using for the main section for the swing outs. And then I have a few other parts right here. This long piece is going to be this upright for the tire carrier, along with this slanted portion here. It will be just 2 feet tall and about 10 inches in, so that I can accommodate any type of wheel that we end up using. We also have the standoff here, which is going to be what the swing outs are going to be sitting on for the entire time, so that they are supported in the middle. I also have these 2 uprights for the jerry can holder that are already cut out. These things are roughly 1 foot long, so that I can still have some adjustment on where I can put the jerry can holder. Learning from when I did the Suburban, 1 foot's roughly good enough, especially when you start lifting a vehicle. You don't want to be lifting a jerry can up to your chest, especially when it's hot or when it's incredibly full. So that is roughly 50 pounds that you're trying to press upwards. That's not an easy thing to do. I also have this remainder of a 4-inch strap. This is also 1/4 inch. This will be used to be bracing onto the standoff that's going to be welded onto the actual bumper. It's going to be used primarily for a stoppage, as well as to cup around the swing out so that they lock in together. And that's pretty much all I have here. Now, how I'm going to go about attaching it is going to be welding on these spindle sections onto the main tube itself on both ends, so that once I tack on one side, I can pretty much space it out on the other and just move it across. But I am also going to be putting a plate on top of the actual main tube of the rear bumper, so that I have proper spacing, so that when I have the brace and the wrapping material fully put on, it is just going to fit like a glove for the most part, I hope, crossing fingers. And that's basically how I'm going to attach the swing outs to the bumper. Now I'm just going to get everything set up so that I can get all of this into position, and I'll show you right before I start tacking everything in. And here we are with what the swing out is supposed to be looking like. It is basically in the spots that I need it to be. It is centered up. I'm watching the marks with everything else. The tubes are fully welded on. I do need to put a bigger cap on one side, but that's manageable. But this is basically where the hinges are going to be going. And it is significantly further than I originally thought from the main tube, but that's not that bad. I can worry about that in a bit, but this is basically what I've been trying to do. All I'm gonna do now is just tack everything fully into place, and that's basically all the time I have left for today to get everything else done. So I'm just gonna do that and bring you back when I can work on it again. It has been a hot minute of me just working and getting everything prepped so that everything will just fit when everything is all said and done, and I don't have to do as much grinding when all the welds are finalized. But I didn't record it because I just wanted to get to work. But let me show you what I ended up getting done. The jerry can holder is done. I took the material that was acting as a table right here, and I pretty much just notched it to the point where I could fold the metal inwards on itself so that I can get this shape. It is 17 inches tall, 14 inches wide, and 14 inches across, as well as 7 inches in front. It is roughly the perfect size for you to have a secure placement for your jerry cans. I also ended up getting their standoffs pretty much done. I just capped off one end and left the bottom open on both of these, just because I'm going to be welding the bottoms onto the swing outs, so that will be capped off when I do that. I got the cupping material for the swing outs done, and it sits perfectly well. It is loose enough that the arms aren't going to have trouble getting in, but it is tight enough that once everything is locked up, especially with the clamp, it will not move. I also got the brace for the standoff so that the arms will be just sitting far enough away that they won't ever go into the door. But with the cupping material, I do need to add a little stopper right here so that it'll actually catch on the brace right here. It'll also act as a support for the swing outs that are basically going to be free floating right here. But moving on to the tire carrier, is a pretty much 20-inch vertical 2x2 tube with a brace, as well as another 10-inch at an angle piece that goes straight out to the actual mounting plate. I haven't installed the lugs yet for obvious reasons. I didn't want to mess up the threads while everything is being moved, but that will be a pretty easy gig to do. Main goal right now is to figure out where to cut this main tube at so that I can create both swing outs. In order to figure that out, I need to figure out where this tire carrier is going to go, because I do want the cut to be off-centered, because I do want the space right above the hitch receiver to be unimpeded from anything. Amongst these markers, I need to make sure the tire lands right before here, because this is right where the tail light is going to be, and I needed to give enough space so that I can fit at least 2 jerry cans somewhere over here, which leaves me to be right around here. I feel I'm going to be putting the tire carrier right on this side of the line so that I have enough room on both sides to hypothetically put a 37, if it's even possible, on the 4runner. So with that being the idea, I can now count off an inch, and then that is where I'm going to be putting the cupping material, and therefore right behind it, the brace. It'll be very quick and very easy job for me to do, but that means this is basically the lineup that I'm gonna get. I just need to cut somewhere in the middle of this so that I have enough material on both sides to basically have a good grip on both ends. So what I'm going to do now is basically mark off 2 inches inside of this area here and cut it off and cap it really quick so that I have enough time to get this material welded on, so that I can put the brace right underneath and tie that into the main bumper right here.
Knowing where to cut the tubes to separate the arms now actually makes most of our positioning questions for the accessories really simple now, because it becomes a fixed point. We can now base the rest of our spacing around it.
I got the ends capped up and ground down. It is a bit of a tight fit, but I'm just gonna relieve that even more with some grinding, but this is perfectly fine. I also tacked in the brace right here, or the standoff. It is just on 2 sides. I need to do the top and the bottom. Other than that, I'm just gonna get to it.
I like this brace and metal catch system that I have, because while a lot of bumpers with swing outs have braces to support the arms in their stowed position, it's actually less common to see this metal catch system that I have here that locks the arms together, because when it's actually there, it adds a lot of rigidity to the arms, so it's less likely to bounce around. Even when it's latched in, there's always this little amount of play that's in there. This takes a little bit more out of that play and secures it a whole lot more.
It's the morning. I couldn't actually finish last night because I had an issue with the spacing on this, and I had to actually clear it out beforehand to actually get it all to fit correctly and actually slide in and out freely. But it is now fixed, and I got everything in the center well done. And right now I am just gonna get the tire carrier set up so that everything else can be put in, and I can finish this up now.
A simple way that I'm using to make sure that these verticals are very flush with the arms is this backing plate that I have clamped on there. Since I don't have a jig that's dedicated to making sure that I have flat surfaces, I'm just using things around me, and honestly this gets me really close to a flat surface, if not close enough for this purpose.
I got the tire carrier pretty much welded up onto the swing out. I have this little support here just so that this thing has less movement side to side, and it is pretty much good to go. Now this leaves me just the jerry can holder, and what I'm gonna do is get the standoffs, these ones, and weld them onto the back of the actual jerry can holder here and space them apart about 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch off of the side, so that it isn't just welding onto the very edge and I have a little bit more room to weld, but 6 inches sticking out from the bottom so that I have some distance for the arms, and it'll be roughly level with where the tire is supposed to land. I think I'm just gonna start welding this up and setting this up so that all I'm gonna do after this is done is pretty much put a plate on the back side of the swing out and then tack it into place. All set up, it's tacked in on the back on several places, and I just have it positioned so I can start welding it onto the main arm itself. I think this is going to be an easy weld, so I'm just gonna get it done. But the way that I'm actually holding everything up is that I have a 1/4 inch plate on the back end that's being used as a backer so that I can squeeze the legs onto the arm itself and have it flush with the back. I did the exact same thing for the tire carrier, so the system seems to work. So I'm just gonna get it tacked up and then properly welded fully, and then I'll bring you back when it's done. And this bumper is done. I got everything welded up. The jerry can holder is welded up top to bottom. Everything is secure. I just need to button a few things up, such as the latch, put on the remaining nuts, get the washers in for the swing outs, and get this thing ready for paint, which is basically me scratching up everything, cleaning up whatever splatter is left, and then getting a nice coat of primer, then bed liner, so everything sits flush. And then after everything's mounted up onto the vehicle, getting the lugs installed on this mounting plate, and then installing the tire carrier itself. I already have the holes drilled out for the license plate, and then I need to get a license plate light. But other than that, this thing is ready to go. I mean, it's ready to go to get paint, but this thing is done essentially. So I'll be doing all of that before I show you the final product. But the next time you see this, it'll be on the 4runner and fully mounted. The 4runner bumper build is done. I really enjoyed doing this bumper because it taught me a few things about the 3rd gen 4runner, and it gave me a chance to give a bit of my own spin and flair to a high clearance rear bumper that is my own making. It isn't a kit, and I'm happy with the product that came out of it. So I do appreciate everyone who watched this video and watched the rest of this series. I appreciate you guys, and if you guys want to keep watching this 4runner get built up into a budget overlander, please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, be safe and tread lightly.